Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome back to the Silver Case. Case number 4.5. I just finished eating some food, and before that, I was actually lounging around watching some more SMT5 Vengeance. Before that, I was at the gym. I've been actually consistently going to the gym at around 9 a.m. ish now, so a lot later than what I usually do, since usually I would just wake up and instantly go to the gym. I kind of realized that it's actually a lot nicer to do this right now, or, to do the schedule I have right now. Because one of the nice benefits about, doing the work that I'm doing is the flexibility of having to not, just wake up super early, doing stuff instantly, right? So I have enough free time and lounging around time to actually do stuff that I'm enjoying. But yeah, as you are hearing, we are now using a different BGM for this new episode. And let's talk about the last episode recap, shall we? On the last episode, chapter 2 literally was just introducing that Minato guy, which we met in the like hospital. I believe it wasn't like a hospital, but it's similar enough to a hospital. It was where she was trying to do lectures about an autopsy. And I believe that Minato guy is pretty suspicious since they wouldn't really give us the name if it's not someone that's gonna be part of the story. And after that, we got home, and then Kana was giving us a really weird message on our voicemail saying stuff like she's being followed lately. And we ended off with this really cryptic scene where someone is being found by a male person that they know of, and it seems they're actually being killed. We don't know if this is Kana or not yet, so without further ado, let's actually continue chapter number 3, shall we? Sorry, my internet takes a while there. Obituary. I don't know what that means, but alright. The Institute's Ooh. This keeps happening. I don't know what's going on, but the font really changes. I guess because the loading hasn't been done yet, and I am zooming my Google Chrome, so I guess that's why it's happening. But there you go. The Institute's firing range was in the annex basement. Its interior, designed purely for functionality, was the color of lead from wall to wall, and the lighting was dim. It was the type of place where spending a few hours might turn you dark and moody. But perhaps that made it easier to focus on hitting the target without distraction. Okay, I was wondering what the hell they meant by firing range. I thought they were talking about like an antenna to broadcast some sort of Wi-Fi range. But it's literally a shooting range. At the end of the day's practical training, it was announced that Sakura's score was at the top of her class. She still held on to the consecutive number 1 position she'd held ever since her training had begun. Her firearms instructor looked at Sakura with admiration. I forgot to mention on the last episode recap, Sakura was also remembering stuff from her dreams, or she said something about having like this dream that she had since childhood, which is literally just something that we already know in the Silver Case game about her being part of the Ayame project. If you performed like this, I think you could even clinch the top spot in a competition. If you were to enter one, want to give it a go? I really don't have that kind of game time right now, so I'm not sure. I see. Yes, you're right. Well, have a think about it. The instructor gave a short nod and left briskly. He must have assumed that it was only natural for a trainee not to have enough free time to consider taking on anything extra. It certainly hadn't been a lie, but Sakura had no interest in competitions. She was learning how to shoot a gun so she could be of use in the future during investigations, not to compete with others. And she didn't particularly like shooting anyway. Perhaps Sakura had always had an aptitude, since she was able to hit the center of the target without putting in any particular effort. Since she wasn't putting in the work, it didn't feel like hitting her shots was such a big deal. She made her way up to the first floor lounge. and was taking a break with her fellow teammates and a weak coffee purchased from a vending machine when suddenly a campus-wide announcement played. It singled out Sakura Natsume, telling her to come straight to the registrar's office? What is a registrar? Uh-oh. Not the dreaded registrar's office summons. What have you been up to, Natsume? Did they find out that you were secretly working behind the scenes as a part-time hitman or something? Mocking voices filled the room. Sounds like decent part-time work. I'll consider it. Sakura dodged casually, tossing her half-empty paper cup into the dustbin and making her way briskly down the hallway. The registrar's office was right inside the front reception of the main building's first floor, connected via a passageway. The interior was visible through a wall whose upper half was made of glass. Inside, she could see her principal instructor standing opposite another man, with whom he was conversing passionately. His companion had his back turned to Sakura, making it impossible for her to tell what sort of person he was. The instructor noticed Sakura quickly, gesturing for her to come inside. "Sorry I'm late. I'm Sakura Natsume," Sakura said, giving a brisk introduction as she walked through the door. The man turned around, his double-breasted suit giving off a high-quality luster. Luster? Is that how you actually spell that? Interesting. Under the white fluorescent light was the first thing that caught her eye. It was clear at a glance that the suit was an expensive one. The color of his shirt shone pearl white, without a single crease. His tie, a chic hue with even its folds balanced, seemed to have been tied with plenty of care. She looked down at his feet and saw black leather shoes polished to such a shine that she might even be able to see her own face in them. He stuck out horribly in the registrar's office, with its steel desk and disordered clutter. "So you're Sakura Natsume. You're Daigo Natsume's little girl, currently in training to become a special agent. Is that right?" The man asked Sakura, his voice gentle. "Yes," Sakura replied concisely. "Were you in the middle of your firearms lesson? I can smell gunpowder smoke on you." "No, my practical training just ended now." The smell of gunpowder smoke is just like cigarette smoke. It ingrains itself into your hair and clothes, even the fingertips that touch the gun. You should be careful, even if it is part and parcel of the job. Women who give off that sort of stench aren't particularly desirable, he said, plucking a piece of lint off the sleeve of his suit with precise movements and dropping it to the bin. What's a lint? And I do agree, I'm not particularly a fan of tobacco, so someone that has the smell of smoke definitely would turn me off. Sakura began to grow irritated. Had she been summoned just to stand around chit-chatting? "Natsume, this is Special Agent Nakatagawa from the HCU. Oh, this is Naka. He says, there's something he needs to discuss with you." As always, the instructor's words were short and to the point. The three relocated to the reception office on the opposite side of the hall. With a pretentious gesture of the hand, Nakatagawa prompted Sakura to take a seat first. She gave a slight bow of gratitude in response, settling on the edge of the sofa in front of her. Nakatagawa sat down on the opposite side, a table sandwiched between them, and the instructor left the room. Somewhat tense, Sakura waited for Nakatagawa to begin. "Let's cut right to the chase, shall we? In the early hours of this morning, the body of a young woman was discovered." It is, okay, I actually spoiled myself because when I saw a young woman, I instantly went to the bottom and it said Kana, god damn it. "We managed to identify the body quickly by her possessions. It was Kana Makino, a model. She was a friend of yours, wasn't she?" Sakura froze on the spot. She opened her mouth in an attempt to speak, but couldn't find the words and shut it again. The air in the room suddenly felt very thin. "Are you alright?" came Nakatagawa's voice. Sakura nodded reflexively. "What a tragic incident. I won't let the perpetrator of these crimes get away with it. We will catch this guy and make him pay. For the sake of your friend too, I promise," he said, his voice forceful. Sakura's face shot up. "These crimes? You mean you think this was the work of that serial killer? The one who only goes after 22-year-old women?" Nakatagawa paused briefly as if in thought, before finally nodding. "I guess it can't hurt to tell you that much. Yes, due to the circumstances, we are currently viewing this crime as being the work of the same killer." "What kind of state was Kana in when she was found?" Nakatagawa took out a notebook, shaking his head. It wasn't his police ID, but rather an organizer bound with caramel-colored leather. I think it would be better if I didn't answer that. I came here to ask the questions, not to be questioned myself. We actually looked into the call records on the mobile phone that was in Kana's bag, from which we learned that she had made a call to you approximately 3 hours prior to her estimated time of death. Specifically, that was at 9:20 p.m. That was the last call she made using that phone. The details of it were incredibly interesting, which is why I came to discuss it with you. Incredibly interesting. Exactly what had she said on the answer phone message? For a moment, in her confusion, she was unable to recall, but soon remembered. You were very insistent in the message that she keep an eye out, weren't you? It kind of feel like she was being stalked often. Last night, there was a message from Kana on my answering machine. She said she felt like someone was following her. I thought it would be too late if she waited until something happened. So I called her back immediately. I couldn't get through, so I thought I'd leave her a message for the time being. I see. So you didn't speak with Kana directly yesterday? No. Sakura's voice was slightly shrill as she replied. If only she'd come home an hour earlier. She would have been able to take the call herself. She would have been able to give her more useful advice too. Maybe Kana really did have proof somewhere that she was being stalked and simply hadn't mentioned it at that time. If she knew what it was, there would have been something she could have done before it had been too late. Is the message from Kana still on your phone answering machine? Home answering machine. Yes. Would you be willing to turn it in as evidence for the sake of the investigation? Of course. I'll send someone to pick it up later. When was the last time you saw Kana? 2 days ago. We had dinner together. Nakatagawa continued, asking many more questions about Kana's friendships, behaviors, recent circumstances, and more. Sakura told him everything she could remember, but couldn't imagine that anything within served as a clue as to the killer's identity. Finally, Nakatagawa closed his notebook quietly. That will be all. Thank you for your cooperation. Had Nakatagawa picked up on something from Sakura's answers? She couldn't read anything in his expression. She saw him off at the front door, wanting to somehow drag even a little more information out of him. Why was Kana targeted? Do you think there's some sort of significance in the fact that all of the victims, Kana included, were 22-year-old women? Sakura asked as they walked down the hall. Who knows? The victims have all been 22-year-old women so far. That is a fact. Nobody can say any more than that. Nakatagawa replied bluntly. They soon reached the front entrance, giving her no further time to dig. You should hurry back to your lecture. Trying to get info from me is a waste of time. Just so you know, if I were you, I'd make sure not to go getting emotional and running around doing my own thing. I understand how frustrating this must be for you, but to be blunt, it'll just get in the way of the investigation. As long as you're a trainee, you should be dedicating yourself to your studies instead of dwelling on things that don't concern you. I'm sure your father would have wanted the same. Leaving her with this, his face composed, Nakatagawa clicked his way out of the door in his beautifully polished shoes. This is the first time we actually know about how Nakatagawa actually looks. This is quite interesting because the game doesn't actually give into too much details about how a person looks. The fact that Naka is very much paying attention to detail about his looks really speaks volume to his character, you know? I don't understand why they actually didn't do that in the game. Probably because we play as Azai and that guy's a fucking psycho of a zombie, which has no thoughts to himself. That's probably why. Unlike Sakura here. He got into a car that had been waiting out front and drove away. As soon as he was out of sight, Sakura kicked the pot of the decorative plant next to her with the sole of her shoe. The pot, a large ceramic one containing a sturdy rubber tree, didn't budge an inch. That got on her nerves, and she was about to kick it again when she realized how stupid it would be for her to sprain her ankle in such a way and change her mind. She was utterly furious at everything else too. Herself, for helplessly letting Kana get killed, and the snobby investigator who treated her like a little girl. Still standing in the same spot, Sakura closed her eyes, breathing slowly in and out. She repeated this over and over, beginning to feel herself gradually calm down. She opened her eyes, stretched her back, and glared out of the glass door at the now empty spot. Intense determination burned within her eyes. Finally, Sakura began walking energetically down the hallway in the direction of the training room. For lunch, Sakura decided to go out to eat. The institute was itself equipped with a cafeteria which served passable food for its staff and students. There were a number of eateries nearby, but most of the students, squeezed for time, would dine on the premises. Even if only for a little while, Sakura wanted some time alone. She wanted to go back over the details of her conversation with Kana, try to figure out whether any clues lay within. She exited the building and began to walk briskly. Her plan was to buy a sandwich or something like that and take it to the park. There was a sizable park adjacent to the grounds of the institute. As she was about to cross the street and head to the convenience store on the other side, someone suddenly grabbed Sakura by the shoulder. Her body moved with conditioned reflexes, elbow ramming back and feeling sure resistance. A moment later, an unfamiliar man was writhing on the pavement, clutching a solar plexus. "That's just cruel. You can't just go doing that out of the blue," the man said, sounding pained. Sakura remained on alert. Still standing at the ready, she put some distance between them and looked down at the man. "Who are you? What do you want? Is that all you've got to say to the guy you just violently assaulted out of nowhere? This country really has gone to the dogs." "Ah, that's Morishima." The man finally got to his feet, although his brow was still furrowed in pain. Was he so pale thanks to the elbow Sakura had rammed into his solar plexus? His short hair had been casually combed down. He was forcing a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. Perhaps it was only natural for a man she just flattened to be shooting her dirty looks, though. See, here's the thing. Morishima has two looks. One is when we play as him in the silver case, and then one is this face when we actually see him in the perspective of Azai. I don't understand why they have two differing sprites of Morishima. That is very weird. At this point, we already know that Morishima is the one that has Kamui's eyes. So we know that for a fact, but I just don't understand why they have two different sprites. Well, I guess I should have said hi or something first. I just wanted to get a hold of you before you crossed the road. And you know, I forgot I wasn't just dealing with some little girl. You haven't answered my question. Who are you? Let's clear that up first. The man smiled wryly, holding out a business card. And all I wanted was to have a nice, friendly chat. Oh, whatever. I'm Tokyo Morishima, a reporter with Asterisk News Agency. I guess they don't really want to use any sort of agency there. I don't know why they can't just make some stuff up. Now it was Sakura's turn to frown. A journalist? And just what are you prowling around here for exactly? This is a training institute for cadets. We don't have any juicy stories for the likes of you. Hey, don't get so pissy with me. Just give me a second to explain. I think you'll find it quite interesting too, Miss Sakura Natsume. Hearing her name come out of nowhere, Sakura was bewildered. How do you know my name? Morishima grinned. I have an intelligence network. You're a friend of Kana Makino, the one who was killed, right? Sakura glared daggers at Morishima. Where did you hear that? I know that Sakura Natsume was the last person Kana Makino called too. Don't glare at me like that. The info was gonna get out eventually anyway, so I wanted to have a little chat with you. I'm convinced that this is the work of that Jack the Ripper guy. The police seem to be on the same page. Right now, I'm looking into that murderer. Jack the Ripper, huh? The case is causing quite a stir amongst the public. I'm sure something like that would carry a pretty hefty price tag. Sakura replied coldly. Well, yeah, I guess. But I'm not in this for the money. Not that there isn't any on the table, mind you. But there's another reason. I believe that these serial murders are closely tied to another case I'm looking into. That's why I want information. Will you lend me a hand? There's nothing in it for me, and none of this has anything to do with me. Is there some reason why I have to help you? Don't you want to know all the facts of this case too? Even if you say you're just a trainee, don't you want to solve this case as someone who has intentions of becoming an investigator? Investigating is a job for the police, not a journalist. Sakura asserted curtly. Morishima sighed. You're one stubborn lady. I'll take that as a compliment. Let me tell you one thing. Kana, the dead girl, was stubborn enough to give me a run for my money. Everyone was fooled by her outward appearance, thinking she was a fragile woman. But she wasn't like that at all. She was strong, smart, pretty, and ambitious. There's no way she should have been killed so easily. Without realizing it, Sakura had begun to cry. She swiped at the falling tears with her fingertips, but they continued to spill one after another, and she was powerless to hold them back. Sakura, after reading through her dialogue or her monologue for the past 2 chapters, I actually thought Sakura was a strong person, but she's actually just been withholding her emotions. Rather than not having or not lacking, or rather than not having or lacking emotions, she's actually been holding them back. As what we saw on the last chapter too, when she actually fainted, right? Because she remembered or she saw her dead mother, or I believe her dead father, in the corpse that we were autopsying. So it's pretty interesting. Hey, don't go crying here. I'd rather have you beat the crap out of me again than cry, Morishima said, mild dismay audible in his voice. It's not like I'm crying, because I want to either. Sakura choked out in reply. God damn it. Guess it's time to pack it in for the day. I know a few little tidbits that the police still haven't made public. I know you probably want to know all of the details about the case, and I just thought we could work more efficiently if we exchange information. Well, your friend was killed. I'm sure you're not in any frame of mind to be thinking about this right now, Morishima muttered, scratching his head. Wait, Sakura called as he went to leave. Fine, let's exchange information. Under one condition though. Yeah? You buy me a sandwich and coffee from that convenience store over there. In the end, Sakura settled down in the park's picnic area, Morishima in tow. First of all, the murder weapon in each case was an exceptionally sharp blade, like a surgeon's scalpel, or something in that vein. They're really trying to make us think that this is Minato, but I have a feeling they're trying to make this a red herring. I don't think it's Minato. It must be someone else that we haven't gotten to know yet. That's what it seems to have been. So far, we have 3 cases thought to have been the work of one perp. There are questions about whether there might be more we don't know about, as in more bodies that haven't yet been discovered. But that's just speculation. Morishima paused for a moment, taking a pack of cigarettes out of the chest pocket of his worn leather jacket. You mind if I smoke? Go ahead. You're more polite than appearances let on. Could have done without that last part. Sorry, I butchered that sentence. Could have done without that last part. There you go. He plucked a cigarette from the pack and held it between his lips, lighting it with an old Zippo. He exhaled a cloud of smoke, not seeming to especially enjoy the taste, and went on. All of the victims are 22-year-old women. Some might suggest that it's a mere coincidence, but now that a 3rd victim has turned up, people seem pretty convinced that this guy is intentionally going after 22-year-old women. Anyone who checks the news could have figured this much out. You know all of this already too, right? So I'm thinking, is this guy killing 22-year-old women because he's Kamui and he's trying to kill every Ayame that has come to be alive? That's what I'm trying to think, or that's my current theory so far. Because Ayame and Kamui, all of the candidates for the prototype, should all be in the same range of age. Might even be the same age to the dot. That's actually what I've been thinking too on my original playthrough of the game. Whether or not all of the Kamuis are actually the same age, and all of the Ayames are the same age. I don't know. Because the people that the actual Ayame killed, were actually a couple differing ages, right? In chapter 1 and chapter 2, it was a bit different. Sorry, not chapter 2, sorry, chapter 1 only. Chapter 2 was about the kid, and chapter 3 was about Sumio. But yeah, maybe just a couple of month difference, not necessarily a couple of years, but who knows. This is still a theory, mind you. Sakura nodded, bringing her styrofoam cup of coffee to her lips. Warmth spread through the cup into her fingers. Steam drifted faint and white through the slightly chilly air. Alright, Here comes some info that hasn't been made public. Right now, the police are moving in secret, trying to keep this from getting out. Not that I have any idea why. Sometimes I'll keep important evidence as a secret, so they can use it to figure out what is and isn't true when they arrest a suspect. Plus, in a situation when it's decided that releasing the information in a particularly macabre case will have a serious negative effect on the general population, that information is restricted. I don't know what I said macabre correctly, but I've seen the word used, but I don't know what it means. Aha, I see. You sure do know your stuff, trainee. So they're not just being stingy then. It's only a matter of time before this is all exposed though. I suppose so. The media aren't exactly known for doing as the police tell them. You don't survive in this line of work by being well behaved. Here goes. Disobedient media info numero uno. The condition of the body. Each one of the bodies was spotless. Spotless? Then why is the information restricted? Just listen. They're too clean. Aside from the fatal neck wounds, there's barely a scratch on them. Their throats are cut cleanly in a straight line from ear to ear. Really? With the trachea and both the left and right carotid arteries sliced through simultaneously. After he kills them with a single slash, the perp tidies up the body. He lays them down straight, fixes their clothes and puts their hands together on top of their chests, then leaves them there, just like a body lying in rest at a funeral home. And one other thing, each of the bodies have cross marks carved into their foreheads, like some sort of engraving. We're still not sure what that means. Is there any leftover, like, drugs administered into the body? I don't think the perp is able to just kill them in one single shot without actually the victims themselves, you know, trying to fight for their lives. So he must have injected something, maybe like, like some sort of sleep drug that'll make them very tired. That's what I'm thinking. Because there's no way he would kill them that cleanly. Morishima took a break, sipping his coffee. I think I've got a handle of the general outline of the case. What state was Kana found in then? When and where? If you know the specifics, tell me. Sakura inquired of Morishima. Morishima glanced at her, as if trying to assess the situation. If it's me you're worried about, don't be. I won't cry or make a scene again. You do seem a lot calmer now. Kana Makino's body was discovered this morning, at around 4 a.m. The body was behind a bakery a block away from the apartment building where she lived in the southeast part of Area B. There's a space out back where they store wheat flour and stuff like that, like a little vacant lot. You can't see it from the front. As usual, her body was found there, lying like a corpse in a morgue. Judging by the amount of blood left at the scene, she appears to have been killed there. The first person to find the body was, of course, an employee at the bakery. More specifically, a baker. Their main selling point is their freshly baked bread, and it's open from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Obviously, the place is empty at night. There were no witnesses. They apparently start preparing at around 4 a.m. Their diligent work ethic backfired, and ended up with them stumbling upon something terrible. Something terrible? Come on now, don't go crying on me. I'm not going to cry. Lay off. I hope not. So anyway, it looks like Kana was kidnapped from the underground car park of her apartment building, then taken to the scene of the murder. The Boston bag she used a lot was apparently found lying on the floor of the car park. Earlier that day, she finished up a glamour shoot, leaving the studio after 9 p.m. After that, she seems to have driven her own car straight home. Somewhere along the way, she probably called you. Then she left the car, planning to head for her apartment when... Got it. That's enough. For a few moments, Sakura closed her eyes, trying to set things straight inside her head with as much composure as she could muster. She looked up, suddenly feeling eyes on her, and saw that Morishima was watching her with a nervous gaze. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm not gonna cry. Please don't. Okay, this time I have a question I want you to answer. What did Kana Makino say in her final phone call to you? Sakura recounted the same thing she had told the HCU investigator that morning to Morishima. Alright, Kana sensed that she was being stalked by someone, but she was killed before he could extend a helping hand. Sakura bit her lip and nodded. The commonalities of the marks carved into their foreheads, and the fact that the victims are all 22 years old. You could say that these are the key. The investigation squad are desperately searching for anything besides this that the victims had in common, but nothing has turned up so far. In terms of occupation and residence, they're all scattered to the wind. The cross marks, what are those? Christian crucifixes? Or the kanji for the number 10? If we're just throwing out possibilities, it might be a plus sign. What could the perp possibly mean by it? Some sort of message? If it is a message, then surely he'd leave the bodies in more conspicuous places. In each case, they were found in locations that wouldn't attract much attention. So the other clue is that they're 22 years old. Now that you mention it, how old are you? Sakura scowled with displeasure, looking at Morishima. I turned 22 on my birthday this year. Quite the coincidence, huh? But you'd already looked into that, hadn't you? That felt like it was on purpose. Morishima grinned. Yeah, maybe. So is there anything you, as a 22-year-old yourself, can think of? Something only someone of your age would know. Something that happened at the same time. Or your upbringing, whatever. Maybe there's something hidden within that. Sakura silently shook her head. She had tried thinking about it before too, when she had learned more about all of the victims being 22 years old, but hadn't been able to come up with anything. I see. Morishima picked up his sandwich as he pondered, tearing off the vinyl wrapper and beginning to chew. Sakura too, lured in, took a bite of her own sandwich. The convenience store sandwich was the same as always. The bread was squishy, the ham wispy thin, and it hardly tasted of anything. I really doubt that. Japanese convenience stores are really amazing. So they're bullshitting here? Either that or they're being humble about Japanese convenience stores. She brought it mechanically to her mouth, washing it down with coffee. Surrounding the picnic area was a plaza, where straggling conifers such as fir, pine, and cedar trees have been planted. Fir, I hope I'm saying that right. As it was lunch break, people could be seen here and there sitting at the benches and eating lunch. Children who appeared to be about preschool age trailed after a young woman wearing a nursery teacher's pink apron. The children ran and played beneath the conspicuously tall, thick-trunked fir. Maybe it's fir, not fir. I don't know. The fir tree's branches spread out majestically, thick with leaves, seeming like it would make a fine Christmas tree come December. Sakura watched the children absent-mindedly. The sky was a dismal shade of gray. The children's shrill squeals echoed throughout the lead-colored sky. The tall trees seemed to pierce the cloudy, overcast heavens. I've seen this view before, she thought. Typo? A dark sky, trees like Christmas trees, children's voices. There was a buzzing in her ears. A crowd of children doing something in a dark place. For a moment, Sakura hallucinated that she was inside her dream. It was the same nightmare she always had. It made her feel like her heart would be crushed under the anxiety. Somebody please, hurry and wake me up. That place is scary. A dark place. Buildings like Christmas trees. Huh? Hey, what did you just say? What? She looked up, jolted by Morishima's voice. He was staring straight at Sakura, his face serious. The half-eaten sandwich she had held in his right hand now lay on the ground. It's nothing. Nothing? Listen, just repeat that thing you said one more time. A dark place. Buildings like Christmas trees. I remembered about dream I have all the time. There's no deep meaning behind it. Morishima was apparently no longer paying attention to what was coming out of Sakura's mouth. 22 years old. A dark place. Buildings like Christmas trees. No way. The shelter kids? Then that means the perp must be Kamui. Hey, what are you talking about? That Kamui Fujiwara guy is currently being detained under heavy surveillance at a mental hospital. It's impossible for him to have done it. Don't worry about it. I'm just talking to myself. Forget what I just said. Morishima got to his feet swiftly. There's somewhere I need to go. Sorry to leave you like this. Contact me if you remember anything. Wait a second. Paying no attention to Sakura's words, Morishima quickly vanished into the distance. Now things are definitely into motion. Damn. That These two scenes with Morishima and Naka were pretty intense. The one with Naka not so much because it was just confirming my suspicions about the fact that Kana was the one that's dead. But this Morishima one, this one is really interesting because we play as Morishima on the Silver Case game. It makes me feel as though we're playing as two of the main protagonists right now. So this is not something we saw in the Silver Case, but I know that Morishima was actually doing work that we didn't see when we were playing as him. So I thought that Morishima was actually being controlled by someone when we were like blacking out in a couple of days, but I guess he was in full control. But the thing is, just like Natsume or just like Sakura here, he must be in a state where he hallucinated quite often, is what I'm trying to guess. But yeah, this was very interesting. I'm really liking this chapter, and hopefully the next couple of chapters are gonna be like this. But as per usual, even though this was an interesting chapter, it cuts off at the 30-minute mark. So yeah, I'm guessing we're gonna be finishing off the Silver Case number 4.5 next week. Because there are 6 chapters and there's an afterword and an epilogue. But I'll probably do the afterword and epilogue on the same episode as I'm doing chapter 6. But yeah, this was very interesting. So hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Give this video a like if you guys like it. Sub if you guys haven't. Patreon will be getting these episodes early access along with everything uncensored. But nothing is going to be uncensored, of course. Only early access. And also for people on YouTube, if you guys are not a member on Patreon as a free member just yet, feel free to become a free member because that's going to be where I put first episode previews of future playthroughs. By the time this episode is out, there's going to be like lots of like first episode previews for you guys. You guys are missing out on like 4 playthroughs or 5 playthroughs at this point already. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. By the time this is out, there's going to be like 10 playthroughs or something that you guys missed. See ya!